What is up, everybody? How's it going? Welcome into the Sactown Sports Kings recap, coming to you live after the Sacramento Kings take down the Memphis Grizzlies in Memphis by a score of 103-94. And what was it was a tough game to watch at points throughout this game. Definitely, you saw this Kings team go down big early in the first quarter, and that's definitely not what anybody wanted to see, knowing that the Memphis Grizzlies had, I believe it was 11 players unavailable to go tonight. Not exactly how you would want to get the win, not exactly how you would have drawn it up, but the Kings did get the result nonetheless in pretty unspectacular fashion. It was not my favorite game. I don't know what else to say. That was not my favorite game of basketball that I've ever watched, but at least we don't have to talk about a loss. It was ugly. Turnovers left and right. I mean, the Kings were turning the ball over pretty much the entire game. I was tracking it through the first three quarters at least. They went from six turnovers in the first, 12 turnovers at halftime, and then they only had two turnovers in that third quarter. But then that fourth quarter hit, and they just continued to turn the ball over left and right. Domantas Sabonis turned the ball over. They finished with 19, so five turnovers in that fourth quarter as well. It was not the prettiest display, but they got it done. They got it done. Whoa, don't know what you guys hear that, but that was playing in my ear. It wasn't the prettiest basketball, but they got it done. And if maybe 10 Grizzlies were out tonight, maybe this one goes differently. But the Kings did get the result. They are in the middle of a road trip, so you do have to kind of take that into account. Even though they did have a good amount of days off, maybe you could say they're rusty, but to me, that's not really a good enough excuse. The Kings should be quality enough to walk into tonight's game and take care of it easily. So the fact that you saw them struggle the way they did, it's concerning. And Harrison Barnes came back to earth. I think that definitely didn't help their case, but it shouldn't have been HB going for 20 and 30 every single night for these guys to play to their standard. I think Kevin Herter definitely had a rough first quarter. I really liked what I saw from him in the second quarter and on. De'Aaron Fox kind of looked like he was offensively, just not really super aggressive. He had, I think, a mismatch on him a lot of tonight. Scottie Pippen Jr. Hats off to him. He's getting an opportunity right now, but De'Aaron should cook him every single time. And yeah, Malik Monk continues to kind of be in a little bit of a funk. I think Drape said tonight that he had 20 or so family members in the crowd in Memphis because he's from Arkansas, and I guess that's the closest NBA building. But I wonder if it's something like that because we saw him struggle in when Charlotte came to town. Maybe he's a little bit too hyped up. It could definitely be that. I think the last time they were in Memphis, I was reading the stats earlier on the show today. He went crazy. He had 27 points, 10 of 17 from the field. He was incredible last time he was in Memphis. So I don't know if it's having anything to do with his family being there and wanting to put on a show. I did think at least in that first half, it looked like in that second quarter specifically, I think he had two turnovers pretty quickly after each other, and it could just be him trying to do too much. But we've seen it now for a while. It's been I think it's a long season, and we're really in the middle of it. Malik kind of went through a similar thing last year as well, where he had a really strong six man of the year case for the beginning of the year, and then you kind of saw it tail off as the year went on. So could just be that we're literally in the middle of the season right now, and these guys are getting a little bit tired. But it's something that these guys, everybody's got to deal with. Everybody's fighting through it, and it's not really a valid excuse. It's not, and they're lucky because they could really use Malik Monk on a night like tonight when opposing teams don't really have, when you have so many people out, you've got people on the bench who are also not typically in those roles, and the Kings bench should have dominated tonight. And the fact that they definitely got good bench production. Trey Lyles played really well. I thought JaVale McGee offensively contributed a good bit, but to get quick math here, 26 points from your bench when Memphis is already very depleted, and Memphis finishes with 25 points. So not really getting winning minutes from the Kings bench there. That's really not going to help. And then yeah, the turnovers and just missed shots in general. What, the Kings missed their first 12 threes tonight. That's not going to help. And they pointed it out on the broadcast. I do think it's a good point. Memphis has a bunch of guys who are coming out and they're trying to show, hey, I deserve a bigger role. And this is really one of my few opportunities to show coach what I got going for me. And they were going to come out hot, and they absolutely did. And it didn't look pretty. I wasn't really nervous. I thought, they're going to come out with a lot of energy, but that's going to be really tough to sustain for 4 quarters, especially, at the level that they were hitting shots. Again, the Kings made or missed their first 12. I think at the end of the first, Memphis was 6 of 10 from three, or 7 of 10 even from three. So there was no way that Memphis was going to sustain that with the guys that were playing out there. So I wasn't really that fearful that the Kings were going to lose this one, but I can't lie to you. When this game was close down the stretch, I wasn't 100% sure that they were going to get it done. I didn't love the quality of shots that they got down the stretch. Kevin Huerter was huge down the stretch, hit some really big threes. De'Aaron Fox hit some free throws down the stretch as well. It was dicey. And I haven't even mentioned Domantas Sabonis tonight, who was just incredible, a man amongst boys. He was a big reason why the Kings made that comeback, just how he was dominating on the offensive glass and the defensive glass. He was just a force out there. And Jaren Jackson, who was Memphis's really only real rotation player out there, he was giving it his all. We saw him take JaVale one-on-one a couple times. He kind of knew that if they were going to have a chance, it was going to have to be on his shoulders. So Sabonis just really utilized that and dominated him. So shout out Sabonis, who had what was it? What did he finish with? Did he finish with 22? Was it 22, 25, and 6 or something like that? I mean, just 20, 26, and 5. Oh, they keep changing the numbers on me in real time. And then on 10 of 11 from the field. That's bonkers. That is just absolutely insane. And if you have to see them cut down on the free throws. Turnover and light the beam. Yeah, you have to cut down on the free throws. It's not an absolute killer. I mean, we've seen teams, Golden State turns the ball over all the time. Sometimes it's just a little bit of a product of the style of play in which the Kings play with is when you're going to be passing the ball and zipping it around and setting the amount of screens they do. Sometimes it's just a kind of a product of the offense they run, but definitely not tonight. That is not a valid excuse. There was a lot of careless turnovers, a lot of just loose balls, and you can't have that. You can't play lackadaisical like that against Memphis, because frankly, I mean, they said it, but Memphis had won 3 of their last 4 heading into tonight. Granted, they lost the last game they played in, but they're from the grit and grind cloth, and they definitely play with some pride. And I think it was never going to be easy. It was never going to be able to, the Kings weren't just going to be able to walk over them, but it should have been easier than that. I'll tell you that. It definitely should have been easier than that. They killed him in the paint too. Yeah. Isn't the free throw proper? Yeah. They were dominant in the paint. I don't even know what the final numbers were. But that's really where Sabonis he absolutely dominated them. I kind of wanted to see them take more advantages of the mismatches. There was a guy out there who was smaller than Davion. And I was like, why is he not just getting put into switches the entire time? And who was the Duke kid that they said they called up today, who was going crazy in the G League? I didn't understand Matt Hurt. I didn't understand why they didn't try and isolate Matt Hurt out there. And there's no way. I mean, yeah, that fool is a bucket. That's going to be his calling card, but there's no way that guy can defend at an NBA level. Why don't you put him into some switches and just take care of him, get him off the floor? I didn't think he was. I mean, he got 10 points. That's way more than I would have expected him to get in his first NBA action. He literally got called up today. But man, you got to get that full off the floor, and I just didn't feel like the Kings did a good enough advantage of taking advantage of mismatches, which is really something that they've used Harrison Barnes for quite a bit. And HB did struggle today. He got tons of opportunity. He finished with 15 field goal attempts, which is tied with Kevin Huerter for the most field goal attempts on the team. Like he still got the looks that he's been getting these past couple days, just couldn't hit anything from the perimeter. He was 2 of 10. I didn't realize the numbers were that bad. It felt that bad, but he just couldn't make anything from 3 tonight. And good on him for continuing to let that thing fly. But makes you wonder if this is the more so the Harrison Barnes that we're going to get for the rest of the season.
Y'all know Harrison Barnes?
There we go. I forgot. I can't believe I forgot about my soundboard. So, yeah, let's move on to the Twitter portion of today's show where, man, I can't lie. There was a while where I was like, I might have to skip out on the bookmark portion of today because there was nothing. I think quite literally here, we can see it here. Oh, they don't. I'm gonna figure out how to put my bookmarks in order one day, but it was bleak. It was bleak in the first half. Or at least in that first quarter. This is quite literally the only video that NBC Sports posted in the first quarter. Was the first points of the game. Is De'Aaron getting on the scoreboard? So congrats here, De'Aaron. You get on the scoreboard. Glad that they didn't get skunked because, again, Memphis came out pretty hot and you had to expect that. But, that first quarter was really about as bad as you can play. In a way, I would say in a way, it was very esque, it kind of had shades of, I guess they weren't down that bad. I'm being over dramatic. I was trying to make this game more exciting than it actually was. But it didn't, again, it never really felt like the Kings were completely out of this game, even when they were down by a ton at the end of the first. I mean, they made it a 3-point game by halftime, and it was like there was never really much fear, in my opinion, until those closing, 4 minutes or so, where I was like, this thing might not go as well as I hoped. And Kevin Huerter, this to me was where I was like, okay, Kevin Huerter might be back. Again, really, really tough first quarter, but this transition 3 is a tough look. I think Kevin Huerter for a lot of this season passes this ball off to Sabonis here and hopes that Sabonis makes a play, probably finds Harrison Barnes in the corner. Good to see Kevin Huerter just say, you know what? I can hit this. I got my feet set. There's no one in front of me. Just pull. And if he can hit this shot, this is a really, really good piece to have in your transition. Obviously, you have De'Aaron Fox, you got Keegan Murray sprinting to corners, you got Trey Lyles and HB finding the corner in this specific situation. But man, if you can add a Kevin Huerter to the transition game, that's deadly, man. And Sabonis absolutely just dominant tonight. 20 rebounds in the third quarter. I was wondering if we were going to get like a 30-20, or I guess it would be a 20-30-10 game from him. Can't imagine many people. I'm sure someone will have it out here by now, but 20 points, 25 rebounds on 91% from the field. That has to be something that only Wilt Chamberlain has done. 100%. That's a Wilt stat. That's gotta be, because maybe Shaq did it once, but 20, 25, and 90% from the field. That's different. That is absolutely different. And this is, again, Kevin Huerter hitting big shots. This is huge in the corner, whap, to tie it up. And this is, again, and I felt like the Kings should have probably had the game wrapped up by here. This is kind of the moments where I was like unsure how this one was going to go. And then again, Kevin Huerter, huge shot in the corner here, just huge. And he's not really in rhythm to this point. Like, I don't really know when he hadn't taken many shots. He was more involved in the offense at this point, but he for him to just hit these 2 threes after starting pretty slow is really crazy because he just was not this reliable at the start of the season. And if they can get this kind of reliability out of their shooters, especially down the stretch, this isn't even De'Aaron Fox. Like all of these big buckets to have Kevin Huerter and then Trey Lyles hit your biggest buckets. That's great. That is a different way of winning. And that just if they can have more games like this is how this team can really just look a little bit more scary. I don't know if they can, really reach a different tier, but I just think they can be a lot more of a scary opponent or a scary matchup if they can start just having some consistency with their perimeter shooters. And thankfully, we don't have to worry about this stat, but I did bookmark this. Our guy Frankie Cardicelli, the Kings were shooting 25% from three with less than 10 minutes. They actually finished 29% from three. Sacramento was 0-4 on the season when they shoot 25% or worse from three. Let me look at what it is when they shoot 29% or worse. I guess I'll just look at 30. But if I had to guess, they probably have not done well. If I had to guess, they probably actually haven't. I would assume Frankie probably would have put the stat out if it were still true for 30%, but let's look here. That would be game logs. Okay, let's see here. 30% from three. The Kings are 30% from three. They have won 2 games actually shooting under 30% from three. They beat Portland in November. Actually, they were back-to-back games, funny enough. Portland on November 8th and then OKC on November 10th. They shot 29% against Portland, 27% against OKC. But besides that, they are 1, 2. Let's see here. Can I just group these games? Oh, no, I can't. Okay, I'm going to have to count those out. Sorry. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 2 and 7. 2 and 7 when they shoot under 30%. So now 3 and 7 when they shoot under 30% from three, which is, I don't know. I mean, naturally it feels like this team's not going to win games if they can't knock down shots. It's not a great number, obviously. I think ideally they would like to be a team that can win even if they can't hit shots, find other ways to win, right? I mean, that's everybody's goal and hope, but at the same time, you got to know who you are. And I definitely think the Kings fall victim to shooting way too many threes and falling in love with the three when they should probably just look to drive. But, I think there is also something to just knowing who you are and leaning into it and living and dying with it. I might not agree with it. I might not love it, but I just kind of think that's one of those coaching philosophy things. Let me look at your guys' comments here. Yeah. Turnovers were bad. Fox versus Butler, who you got? It's a great question. In many ways, I do think Jimmy and De'Aaron have a lot of parallels. De'Aaron feels like one of those guys who, maybe once he feels comfortable with who he is in the league, I could definitely see him falling into like a Jimmy guy where he's, regular season, he's good. He's borderline all-star, but you get him in the playoffs and he elevates, and he just understands that's what's really important. I could definitely see that being just kind of the lane that De'Aaron kind of fills in the league. I don't know what that ultimately equals, but I can definitely see De'Aaron being that kind of dog or just kind of believing in that kind of philosophy where, why do I care about these games that don't matter? I would much rather just save it and be at my best when the games matter the most. But, I mean, to answer your question in the short term, I mean, I think right now De'Aaron is a better player. I think Jimmy's I think he's at these past 2 years kind of given, and it hasn't just been these past 2 years, but really his entire Miami Heat stint has really just given it his all. And I kind of feel like I don't know if he's got one of those kind of runs in him again. So I'd probably take De'Aaron at this point, but I really don't think that there's much of a difference between the two. Yeah, there's no way. No way Sabonis misses All-Star. At this point, he's going to be the Kings All-Star. I would be I'd be honestly kind of surprised if De'Aaron made the All-Star team at this point. Maybe he'll get it as a replacement, but I think Sabonis really is a guy who just has earned it. Like his numbers are insane. He's like 8th in the NBA in assists. He's 1st in rebounds. He's averaging near 20 points a game. He's leading the NBA or tied for league in triple doubles. He's now got 28 straight double doubles, which is something I think again only Wilt and Oscar have done. I mean, come on, this dude's got to be an all-star. It might not be the most exciting thing, but the Kings are a 5 seed, and they still have won a ton of games, and they need an all-star. They need to have an all-star to represent their team, and I just think it's a lot easier for Sabonis to get in as a forward. And De'Aaron, as we know, kind of dropped a little bit in the month of December, so it'll be interesting. Or I'm sorry, has it been this month? I can't even keep track anymore. This month feels like it's been a year in itself. But yeah, I mean, it wouldn't surprise me if De'Aaron's kind of lost his bid here. I'm not saying it's not going to happen. It would just kind of vibe wise and what I've heard on different collections of podcasts, it kind of sounds like that's where things are rounding out. I would definitely be surprised if Sabonis doesn't make it, though. And yeah, Miami. Hey, this is quote. The comment of the day for sure. Kings can't play sloppy against the Heat amid rock. That is absolutely the truest thing that could be said. As we know, the Heat. I talked about the Grizzlies being that grit and grind culture and cut from that cloth. Miami is that cloth. They are still. They are the example of what that is. And if you're going to turn the ball over a ton, that's playing right into how Miami wants to play. And I really don't think that this Kings team can win a Miami Heat style basketball game. So they have to establish themselves in that one. They got to play a lot more like how they played against Golden State if they want to have a chance against Miami. And they're going to have to put a lot of pressure on Miami offensively. And they're not going to want to get into one of these kind of games with Miami because I just can't see the Kings beating Miami at their own game. It'll be hard to move to Miami. How many of you would play well after staying the night in Memphis and having Beale Street there? Yeah, this is tough, Dwayne. The fact that they have to go from Memphis to Miami, I'm so thankful that the Heat game is on Wednesday because you would get a lot of Miami flu. You would get so much Miami flu if this game was happening on Friday. And yeah, you would have been on Memphis on Wednesday. It would have been like an extended weekend. But I'm hearing you, Dwayne, and I'm just hoping that the fact that I've never been out to Miami. I've heard nothing but good things. But I gotta hope that if Miami ain't dead in late January on a Tuesday, man, I that city really must not sleep. So let's just hope that maybe the guys can pull it together in terms of not partying for one night, because I don't know if there's a whole scandal going on in English soccer right now, because shout out my guy Marcus Rashford. He was clubbing the day before one of their games, and I believe he reported himself out for that game. So it does happen. It definitely does happen, and we don't need that. So we'll see how that goes. Yes, absolutely. This was a highlightless game. I'm telling you, NBC knew it. I realized it. Let's try and think. What was the highlight? Everybody put in the comments. What was the highlight play from tonight's game? I'm honestly trying to think. It was probably like a JaVale lob, right? I think Malik and JaVale had a lob. There were some David Roddy post ups that were pretty sick. Ooh, honestly, it might have been. You know what it was? It was Jaren Jackson going behind the back, and I think he dunked on JaVale, or he might have laid it in, but he went behind the back on JaVale, and I'm pretty sure he dunked it. I think that was in the second quarter. I'm gonna say that was probably the best and only highlight from tonight's game. It was not. It was not the prettiest. Yeah, I mean, Keegan was definitely. I'm not gonna say he's the. I'm just gonna say he was the worst starter today for sure. He could not hit his shot either. You didn't see him bring it in the perimeter, or I'm sorry, bring it within the perimeter like we've seen him do it a couple times here recently. Where just because he doesn't hit a three doesn't mean he's not scoring. Tonight, there wasn't any star for Keegan to go and defend. So, for him to go 2 of 7, 1 of 4, he did give 5 rebounds to his credit, got 2 steals. But really was hoping for a bigger Keegan Murray night tonight for sure. And yeah, he was. It's tough to say he was the worst starter when Harrison Barnes shot. Harrison was 2 of 10 from 3. I don't know. It was not a good game from Keegan. It doesn't have to be a competition. Yeah, Street Thumper. That was my bad. That was a bad comparison. Niners game was definitely way more exciting than this. That was a swing and a miss on my part. Yeah, that's crazy, Manny. That is crazy to think about. The fact Domantas Sabonis had a career high in rebounds. Think about all the crazy rebounding games we've seen from Sabonis already I guess at this point it's pretty much almost exactly to the day. The Tyrese Halliburton day is trade day, is I guess you could say Domantas Sabonis trade day is eerily around the corner. So we've seen Sabonis now for about 2 full years, and tonight is the most rebounds he has ever had in his entire career. That is crazy. That really is crazy. Yes, I didn't hear the G-Man tonight, Roy. What was oh, that's awesome. Actually, Roy says he was so happy with this team, said glowing things about our all-star team against the G League pickup game. I don't know if you're saying he shouldn't have been excited, but I'm gonna shout out the G-Man. I'm sorry. It was Jerry Reynolds' birthday today. I thought it was the G-Man's birthday. It was Jerry Reynolds' birthday today. No, I didn't hear the G-Man tonight, but of course he was happy, Roy. He's always happy. G-Man's like the happiest man I've ever met in my life. It's not how you start, it's how you finish. Wow. Oh, someone must be happy because I brought up turnovers, huh? Yeah, there you go. Sabonis turnovers specifically. You knew I would come over to your side eventually. 3-0 on the road trip. That's a great point. That is a great point, Dwayne. It did not look pretty tonight, but Kings are 3-0 on the road trip, which is exactly what they should be. Miami's going to be a tough one. What is it? Cleveland. I'm forgetting what the rest of the road trip is, but Chicago I know is in there. Indiana's in there as well. I would say definitely the front half of the road trip was a lot easier. I'm glad they picked up the wins. Now, really in a 7-game road trip, I think you're hoping. I mean, nobody goes on 7-game road trips anymore. With the road trip that long, I think you're just hoping to stay above 500. So if they can go 4-3 on the trip, which at this point is just winning one more game, I think it's in the wide view of things, it's considered a success. Got to get it done. I mean, there's a couple opportunities there. Definitely looking at that Chicago game, but you got to try and finish this road trip out, especially now that you're 3-0. Definitely don't want to lose 4 straight and lose all the momentum that you gained, and then head back home. You got Detroit at home. There's a really good chance that you can pick up some games before the Kings have a pretty tough 4-game streak where they play like Denver, OKC, Phoenix, and somebody else. It's a pretty tough stretch there. So definitely hope the Kings can, definitely hope the Kings can pick it up right here, right now, because I know the deadline's right around the corner and no one's really certain about their future, but these are really, really important games right before the deadline. And then, of course, right after the All-Star break, that's where you really want to be playing your best basketball. If everyone wants to remember, that's when that Clipper game happened. And that's right around where you want to be peaking. So, yeah, definitely this Airborne. Yeah, if the threes aren't falling, they should adapt their offensive strategy and penetrate more. That would be ideal. That would definitely be ideal. I've not seen this team do that many times this year, but I definitely feel like, if they can get to that point, I don't know if they feel like they don't have the personnel for it. I don't know if they need to get somebody that just is more aggressive at attacking the rim. But to me, that needs to be a counter that this team has. They have to be able to score at all levels, and they cannot just live and die by the three, because it's really ugly basketball. And when the shots aren't going in, it just feels like it's never going to go in again, and that feels like just a surefire way to get yourself eliminated just by missing shots and not attacking the rim. So I definitely agree with this, and just think in general the Kings shouldn't be as 3-point reliant as they seem to be these days. Shoulder. Ooh, this is a great question amid rock, and one that I've seen and been asked a couple different times. Do you think Fox cares about being an all-star? He seemed so blase about it last year. Blase. I'm sorry. Wow. Blaze. I'm blazed. Um, I don't think I've ever seen blase spelled out. First time for everything. I don't think De'Aaron Fox cares about All-Star. I really don't. I'm not saying he doesn't. He's like actively tanking to not be an All-Star, but I don't think he's going to elevate his play. I don't think he's going to campaign. I don't think he cares either way. I think if he gets named, he'll go. But I definitely think as I'll use your fancy blase. He was pretty blasé about it last year. He did not care. I was at all the events, the practices, the community events. Not the community events, but the like the shoot arounds that are free to the public and stuff like that. I think everybody kind of doesn't care, but that stuff honestly really is only for the mega stars. And if you're just whatever, if you're just a guy in the All-Star game, if you're Pascal Siakam, if you're De'Aaron Fox, if you're Domantas Sabonis, Rudy Gobert, there's not really much there for you. I mean, people are there to see the biggest stars, and you might have a couple fans here and there, but it really just feels like a waste of time, and it feels like you really feel like you're just an NBA product at that point, because you're getting thrown in interviews left and right that you don't want to do or have energy for. You're in the middle of your basketball season, and then all of a sudden everything stops and slows down, and it's in Indiana. I just don't think De'Aaron cares about it much. No. Now I'm afraid also to scroll down to live time and see how many people made fun of me for saying Blaze. Let's see here. Yeah. Shout out also anyone who listens to our prop talk segment on the midday show. Our guy Nate, our producer Nate, called Kevin Huerter getting a block. I say that because Street Thumper said Huerter dunk. Shout out Nate for getting the Kevin Huerter 0.5 over blocks. Really super random that he he picked it, but he nailed it. Kevin Herter blocked, I think it was Gigi Jackson on the baseline. So shout out him. Shout out Nate. Um, Interesting. I'm reading y'all's conversation about De'Aaron and the Supermax. I disagree, but interesting. Yeah, Keegan definitely had an off day. I wish Keegan were more consistent. Interesting. I wish Keegan were more consistent. He had some great games, but just fades into the background some nights. Yeah, for sure. I think a part of that is being a sophomore and just not really. I mean, we see De'Aaron struggling with the fatigue of the workload he has. I think Keegan's got a much heavier workload than he had last year. And I just think it's kind of hard to be consistent. I think that's kind of part of his maturation process. Of course, you would kind of hope it comes a little bit earlier than it took De'Aaron, I don't know, 5 to 7 years to kind of figure that out. Keegan's a little bit older, came out a little bit later in his college career, so you would kind of hope that stuff comes starting next year. But I definitely think also a big part of this is the fact that you see HB getting tons of more touches, especially now, more recently. I know you're not just talking about right here in the past couple games, but I'm more saying I don't know if this is going to change. I kind of think, I'm not saying he's going to fade into the background, but I just think in general, the Kings, there's a pretty sharp line actually. Game 41, HB kind of started to get an elevated role, and or I'm sorry, game 42, HB kind of started to get an elevated role. And I think that they used the first half of the season for, experimenting to see what's Keegan going to be, what Keegan is, frankly. I mean, they talked a lot about internal development this offseason being how this team gets better. And I think they but decided to put all their chips in the Keegan Murray basket. And I don't know if they were hoping this would be something that clicks on and they could do for the entire season, or if this was always the plan, but it feels like Keegan is just in general. I'm not saying he's falling out of the rotation or going to get less minutes. I'd be surprised if he's going to be asked to have the ball in his hands as much as we saw earlier in this year. And we've definitely seen Keegan take an elevated role on the defensive end of things. So I think those things are just going to kind of go hand in hand. And I'd suspect that that's probably going to be the way it goes for the rest of this year, or unless they make a trade. But I think with how this team is currently constructed, that's how I see it going. Yes. Also that, yeah. Sabonis got a lot of rebounds offensively off of some bricks. There was a lot of them. Again, HB 2 of 10, Keegan 1 of 4, even Herter was 3 of 8, but 2 of those came late. De'Aaron 1 of 4, Malik 1 of 4, Davion 1 of 3, even Trey was 2 of 5. A lot of bricks out there. See, this is the G-Man stuff I want to hear. Okay. G-Man said the Kings are playing like they were in a YMCA pickup game. It was bad. It was really bad. I know they were trying to pick up the pace because the Grizzlies only had 8 players, but it was terrible. It was really, really terrible. He called it shameful. Good. Yes, it was shameful. It was really, really shameful. Yes, Crown, absolutely shameful. Shame. Let's ring the Game of Thrones bell. Interesting. 5-2. If we win 4 in a row, what? I mean, yeah, for sure. If they beat Miami, they definitely should. They better at least go 5-2. If you beat Miami, you better beat Chicago. There's your 5th win. I feel like they can beat Indiana, and then who's the last team I'm forgetting about on this road trip? So they have Memphis. They just won. They're on a 3-game streak. Miami would be 4. Oh, Cleveland. I forget they end the road trip with Cleveland. Yeah, 5-2 is absolutely not out of the question. 100%. Did they really? They shot 51%? No. Okay. Well, excuse me. You know what it is, though? You know what it is? Why it felt that way? I'm gonna tell you why right now. I don't know why I said it like that. Keegan and Malik combined for 3 of 13. You combined HB in that, and that's 8 of 28. And those are, I mean, those three are really, I mean, Kev shot well, Domas shot amazing, De'Aaron shot okay, but then the middle chunk there is just bricks all day long. And everybody else played pretty well. Again, JaVale was 4-5, Trey 4-7. Yeah, that's surprising that they shot 50%. Yeah. I think what was tonight? Tonight was game. What are the Kings now? Blah, 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 blah. Why do I never know what their record is? I swear I never know what their record is. 27-18. Yeah, 27-18. That's I'm so bad at math. I just can't. 55 games, I think, into the season. Yeah, we're past halfway at this point. I don't think I was right. I don't think that math was right at all. Did he really? Domas with the DPOG. Okay. Yeah. Why not? They weren't going to give it to Keegan again. I think he won 2 in a row. I mean, yeah, the dude got a crazy amount of rebounds too. I guess they always get super excited about defensive rebounds. Mike Brown likes to act like defensive rebounds are a defensive stat, which I guess, they are, but I wouldn't necessarily say that, they say it ends, no possession ends until you get a defensive rebound, but I don't really know if I would say, oh yeah, no, he had a really good defensive night. He had 15 defensive rebounds. I don't know. This is not something I've looked for before. Interesting. This man Roy is going crazy in the chat. We will never win a chip with a player who does not want to be great and win, because that is how it works. No, you're not wrong. You're not wrong. I just don't know. Yeah, I mean, I agree. Are you talking about something specific? Ah, you are. Okay. Sabonis is our super max. Fox is not going to be that kind of player. This is a take I've not heard. I've not heard the Sabonis is the guy. De'Aaron is not. That's an interesting take for sure. Yeah, okay. I don't quite know what to do with that information. Let me see if you got anything else there. I think this team is fun to watch. Fox playing up to his current contract. Absolutely. De'Aaron Fox is like, what is he sitting at right now in terms of points per game? It really doesn't even matter. I mean, he's one of the best scorers in the NBA. For the first half of the season, he was pretty much the only good thing about this team. Sabonis was struggling to start this year a bit, and De'Aaron was just cooking. He was over 30 per game. He was shooting 40% from 3. I mean, he's the guy. He is the face of the franchise for sure. I mean, he's the guy who gives the franchise the most credibility. So, absolutely, he's definitely living up to his contract right now. And Sabonis is too. Like Sabonis is too. It does not have to be an either or thing. I think they both are. They're both playing great. I would say they're both equally responsible for the Kings' success this season. Like it really does feel like there is a quarter mark. Like De'Aaron took the first quarter. I definitely feel like this second quarter of the season, Sabonis has absolutely stepped up big time. And De'Aaron has taken a step back for sure, but the team hasn't necessarily dropped off. I mean, they've had a couple speed bumps here and there, but they had a ton of speed bumps in the first half of this or the first quarter of the season as well. So I don't know. I don't feel like, I don't feel like either. Whatever. They both take equal blame and they both deserve equal credit. Interesting. Yeah, this is a really interesting point that's kind of gone to the back burner a bit. Keon was getting a ton of minutes and was playing in a ton of games, and he has a limit to how many games he's allowed to play on his two-way. I think it's 50 or 51 or something, and he's got to be approaching that pretty soon here. Let me see if I can look at how many games they have registered for Keon this season. But yeah, I mean, at some point they're going to have to turn that into a fully guaranteed contract. And with, with Keon being the victim of Podium Gate, I hope that Keon gets as much money as he can. He's registered in 28 games. I don't know if it's a certain amount of games like he's dressed for that matter or what exactly it is, but yeah, definitely wondering what's going on with Keon's contract situation. I honestly, I'd be surprised if he gets a lot of game minutes at this point, but stranger things have happened, and who knows what they look like with trade and if injuries start to pile up. But I don't think the plan is for Keon to get minutes anytime soon. But who knows? Who knows? Because things change so quick. Really? Wow. Ben Simmons. Is this true? I guess I shouldn't just take this at face value. Let me check it for myself here. I hope I haven't been bamboozled. Where is this Brooklyn game? Brooklyn, Utah. Ben Simmons. What did this fool do? Ben Simmons had 5 of 5. He had 10 points. He had 11 assists and 8 boards. 5 offensive rebounds, a block and a steal in 18 minutes. That's not bad, but I'm not paying Ben Simmons what his contract is. That's for sure. So Ben Simmons can play as well as he wants, but he's staying in Brooklyn unless he comes with a Mikal Bridges or a Cam Johnson. That's the only way I'm trading for Ben Simmons at this point. You can't just swallow up that contract and hope that he plays. Not at this point. Not with where the Kings are at either. If it were just a free flyer, absolutely. He's the exact kind of guy that the Kings could use if he were healthy. But I don't think you can legitimately trade any of your pieces to try and bring in a Ben Simmons. That's just a massive, massive risk. That's not even close to worth it unless it's for free. Yeah, I talked about this earlier. Malik was definitely doing too much. He was feeling it. I think again it had to do a lot with the people. He had 20 plus people allegedly in the stands today for him. So I could definitely see how he was trying to show out for all his family and friends. And sometimes that goes bad, especially with a dude like Malik who already kind of plays with a lot of energy, and then you turn that energy to 11 and it's just a little bit too much. Sometimes it's great, but sometimes you see him forcing a bit. I think he had a turnover where he, tried to get De'Aaron he passed it in between somebody's legs and was hoping De'Aaron would recognize it and cut. And it was just like, nah, man, like y'all are struggling against the Grizzlies right now. It's not the time for, wavelength check. Yes. How about this? What a fantastic point. Wow. What a great point here. Kings took 10 free throws tonight, all by Fox. Wow. Yeah, that's super strange. I don't know if I've seen that before. I think I heard Katie talking about it on the broadcast. That's highly unusual. First off, the Kings didn't get to the line at all in the first quarter. They need to get. I mean, I know. I can already hear everybody yelling through their computer screens. They don't make them anyway, so why go to the line? But they and it kind of ties into what I was talking about earlier with just them in general. They need to be better at attacking the rim. You're not going to get to the line. It's the same thing. The Warriors complain about how they never get calls and they always have the biggest free throw discrepancy between their free throws and their opponent's free throws. Well, you're not going to get to the free throw line unless you go drive the lane. And, the Kings, I mean, De'Aaron Fox is the only player who really attacks the rim. Of course, Sabonis is around the rim, and we see him get beat up all the time. He's the guy who goes to the line the second the most on the Kings, but somebody else has to attack. I mean, HB's been that guy in the past where he's, been the guy to kind of slow things down, Euro, hit that slow Euro, get to the line, and he'll take like 4 attempts a game when he's at his peak. But Keegan Murray at this point, he's not driving. Kevin Huerter, he's not driving all the way to the lane. Malik sometimes, but he's throwing the lob most of the time, especially when JaVale's in. So he doesn't really get to the line all that much. We saw earlier in this year, he got to the line a ton. That's really slowed down, but De'Aaron's really the only guy who's constantly putting rim pressure on. And until somebody else does, it would not, wouldn't surprise me actually if this isn't the first time it's happened this year, but it's definitely strange. And just a problem in general. I think they need to get to the line more. And how many did De'Aaron hit? How about that? Marissa Sharp? How many free throws did De'Aaron hit? I actually don't know. Let's see here. They shot / De'Aaron shot. Moment of truth. De'Aaron was 6 of 10. They were 6 of 10. Okay. Yes. February 8th. We are it is next Thursday is the trade deadline. I believe it's at noon our time or noon Western. It'll be interesting. That's all I can really say. I have no insight at this time. I've heard some things in the background. I heard things are being discussed. Nothing specific, but I have heard that the Kings are active in talks. I think you don't even need to be an insider to hear that. I mean, you see them connected with just about everybody, every name that's even remotely public. The Kings, I feel like, have been tied to, whether it's Zach LaVine or, the 2 Toronto guys that ended up getting traded, Kyle Kuzma, Jeremy Grant. Kings seem to be involved in all of those rumors. And I would say where there's smoke, there's fire. And, if you see the Kings involved in all of these talks, that would just tell me that probably means they're going to do something. I mean, you don't kick the tires on all these things. And I know Monty likes to say that, he's going to explore every option and look under every rock. But, if you're in rumors with people who allegedly aren't even being shopped, like Jeremy Grant, all rumors say, no, Portland's not looking to shop Jeremy Grant. You would have to wow them. Even Kyle Kuzma. The fact that the Kings are linked to those 2 guys, that tells me that the Kings are actively calling and trying to see what they can get. So if no deal is done, I don't think it's the Kings' fault. I think it's because people just weren't willing to dance with them. I think the Kings are more than willing to make trades. It's just a matter of if the opposing team or the opposite team likes what the Kings are throwing out there. And they're going to be aggressive. I think they're going to take this thing all the way to the deadline. I would shock me at this point. Honestly, this is zero. This right here is 0% sourced. It would shock me if they don't make a move. No, Monk definitely attacks the rim. It's just, it's not enough, and I shouldn't say it's not enough because Malik does what he can. And he's not going to attack every time because that's what makes him so special with his lobs. I mean, I feel like he's got a really good sense of when to attack and then when to throw it, and how one can set up the other. It's just they need more. I mean, again, I think Malik and De'Aaron are the only 2 guys who also are the only ball handlers on the team, and they can't be the only ones who are ball handlers and scorers and the guys who attack the rim. It'd be nice if they can get some contribution out of HB or out of Keegan or out of Trey or Kevin Huerter. Of course, Sabonis is going to be at the rim. I shouldn't say, I don't know if I did what exactly I said there, but if I insinuated at all that Malik doesn't attack the rim, Malik definitely attacks the rim. He's got the best dunks of the year. Of course he attacks. There you go. Look at you. Nailed it. I shouldn't have doubted. A respectable 6. A very respectable 6. You know what's funny? Keldon Johnson is probably G-Man's number one, the guy that I've heard G-Man bring up the most. I think on 2 separate occasions, I've heard G-Man ask or say, I really like Keldon Johnson. That's the kind of guy that I think the Kings should get. So, do with that information what you will. I think Keldon Johnson's good. I think, if I'm not mistaken, San Antonio did pay him a pretty penny. I don't think it's something crazy, but I do know he's on I'm trying to look it up here. I want to say it's like $48 million. It's not an easy contract to just take in, but I like Keldon Johnson, the player, and he's a really interesting player. Who knows what San Antonio's doing? I think they don't even know what they're doing. I don't know if they're shopping, or if they're looking to bring guys in. I don't know if they feel like Keldon Johnson's a piece that they want to keep around, or if he's somebody that they kind of only spent money on because they had to reach the salary floor. I mean, I appreciate him. I think I want it to work with Davion. I do. He tries hard. He really does. He plays hard. Tonight he was on a guy who was even smaller than he was. So that was cool. That's really what I got to say about that. I really hope it works with wherever Davion lands. And I'm not saying it's not Sacramento, even if it is continually going to be Sacramento. I just hope it works out with Davion because he's got tools, man. Like he's when he's aggressive offensively, and if he could have the ball in his hands for 25 minutes, I think you'd be surprised. I definitely think you would be surprised with how well he would play. It's just I really don't think the Kings system is built very well for him. You're right, Manny. I'm babbling way too much.
This is ridiculous, man. Ridiculous.
Way too much. Let's get to the 3 stars of the night. Brought to you by Absolutely Nobody. If you would like to sponsor 3 stars of the night, just do it. Just do it because that'd be great. We are going to start with 1 star. Let me pull up the numbers. I believe I already knew what I was going to do, which is why I didn't. You know what? I'm going to switch it up. I don't even think I was planning to do this. I'm going to give my 1 star to De'Aaron. De'Aaron, 23 points, 4 assists, 5 rebounds. Nothing crazy. A casual De'Aaron game. Again, I think I said earlier, I feel like he could have been a little bit more aggressive attacking the Grizzlies point guards. I mean, they had Scottie Pippen and Jacob Gilyard and Gigi Jackson as their point guards primarily for this game. I just think De'Aaron could have really destroyed them. Not that he had too much of an issue with them, but I mean, he was still incredibly efficient tonight. But just a ho-hum game. He didn't take over. And as we stated, as Marisha Sharp put so eloquently, a respectable 6, but nonetheless 6 of 10 from the free throw line for De'Aaron. So he's going to get 1 star for me, and 2 stars is going to go to that guy, Red Velvet, Kevin Huerter. Where's my Kevin Huerter sound? Oh no. Oh man. How anti-climactic.
Kev going stupid.
There we go.
Kev going stupid.
So Kevin Huerter tonight, I played it earlier. He hit 2 back-to-back threes, which were just huge in clutch time. One was to tie it. The other one was to give the Kings the lead. And he wasn't really in a rhythm. Had only hit 1 3 before those 2, and came up when the Kings really needed it. And that's what Kevin's out there to do. I mean, he hit a couple clutch shots for this team last year. We haven't really seen him be in a rhythm at all this year. And for him to hit those 2 shots, I'm hoping that the Kings can manage to keep Kevin, because I think that, just his shot making could be big and it could be needed at some point. And I think his defense is underrated at this point. I really do. He leads the team, or I'm sorry, he's second in the team in deflections. De'Aaron is just a maniac when it comes to deflections this year. It's been insane to watch his numbers in that stat. But Kevin, I think, is a really solid. I'm going to say solid. I'm not going to say good or great or bad, but he's a solid defender. And the problem becomes if he's not hitting a shot. If he's not hitting a shot, then he's frankly a replaceable piece. But when he's making his shot, he's more than capable of holding down that starting shooting guard spot and even finishing in some games. So, and he's gotten enough size to maybe move up to the 3 if they want to go with, Monk, Herter, and Keegan alongside Fox and Sabonis. So I kind of hope they can figure it out with Kev. And, I think that there's still a place for him on this team. And of course, 3 stars, obviously, is going to Domantas Sabonis. 20 points, 26 rebounds, 5 assists on 10 of 11 from the field, plus 10 in the plus minus. Just a man, just an absolute man. Just absolute domination. And the funny thing is, he's the only guy who was actually going against a starter quality player at his position. He was going against Jaren Jackson. Everybody else, from John Morant to Desmond Bane and all the above were out for Memphis. And Sabonis was the only one who drew an actual normal matchup, and he absolutely dominated it from the start. He had 10 points, 13 rebounds, I think, in the second quarter. So already notched a double-double in the second quarter. The dude's crazy. He's just I don't know where he's going to end up falling on the Kings Mount Rushmore, but he's definitely starting to make some people uncomfortable. Okay, he's making some people's slots in the Kings Mount Rushmore very fluid. It could get, there can be some really tough questions asked. Maybe at the end of this year, Sabonis is now locked down for a couple years in the future, but this dude's going to have some crazy stats that are going to be tough to deny. And, I think De'Aaron seems to be pretty locked on that Mount Rushmore at this point. Mitch, is there for sure, was definitely the only bright spot for this organization in the early 90s. Webb, definitely for sure. How many is there? 4? I feel like everyone always gets mad. Is there 4 or 5 on Mount Rushmore? I think there's 4. So it's gonna get tough. I don't know, man. I don't know if it's gonna be Mitch. I don't know. I don't know. It's not for me to decide. But I'm gonna go enjoy that beam on that note, on that sweet note. I'm gonna go outside. I'm gonna go enjoy the beam. And you can check me out tomorrow on Styles and Watkins from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. Right here on Sactown Sports 1140. You can also check me out Wednesday after the Sacramento Kings fly to Miami to take on the Miami Heat. We'll be right back here on the Sactown Sports 1140 YouTube channel and on the X account. And also, I think I'm going to try and get this on Facebook as well. Y'all have a fantastic rest of your night, and hope you all enjoy this Sacramento Kings win.